There is a lot of reason for excitement for Maryland football this year.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Maryland football has a ton to be excited about this year. I think there's a lot of reason for optimism going into this year in the 2025 season for the Terps. I think I've been fairly negative about Maryland football over the past couple of months. I've been saying I don't think the roster's that great. I think there's a lot of reasons to kind of doubt the Terps. I don't think we look great going into next year. And that can be true. That can be true. You can say some of those things about Maryland football for sure. You can say the roster's questionable. We don't return really anybody from our team last year. Very few places. There are some places where we return guys, but it's very few types of guys when you start looking at it, like between quarterback, between the running game, the receiving room, the tight end room, the defense. Like, just about everyone is new on this team, whether it's a transfer, it's a freshman, or a guy that didn't play very much the year before, which I think is partly something that's scary, but also we can't forget last year we weren't very good. We weren't very good last year, so part of that is exciting. There's reason to be optimistic that we might be a little bit better because we have new people playing in new positions. And I think I've been negative a little bit about Mike Locksley in the fact that last year I thought it was Mike Locksley's worst year as a Maryland coach. I know there were some early years that Locksley had bad records, but he was still developing the culture. He was still getting people in places. He was still getting things right. He was still getting the right players that he wanted. He was still recruiting and different things like that. Whereas now I look at Locksley and I'm kind of like, dang, going into this year, it's a really big year. And I thought last year it was just a poor year for Mike Locksley. I've been negative about that. I've been negative about a lot of the position groups. I've been negative about the offensive and defensive line, saying that the Terps offensive and defensive line has been great in forever. And as much negativity as you can make up for Maryland football, you can match a lot of that with positives for the Terps. A lot of positives and a lot of reasons to be optimistic next year for Maryland football. I think the biggest reason to be optimistic about Maryland football is that freshman class. The freshman class is the biggest reason to be optimistic going into next year. Maryland's freshman class, this 2025 class that Mike Locksley recruited, has the chance to be the best class Mike Locksley has had yet. And I think it is super exciting, the types of players we got in that class, the diversity of types of players in the class. And what I mean by that is Maryland got different types of good players. Like, it's not just like, oh, we got a bunch of skilled guys. It's like, oh, we got a quarterback. Oh, we got some good running backs. Oh, we got a couple good guys on the offensive line, a couple good guys on the defensive line, good guys in the secondary. That's what's really exciting, and there's a big reason to be optimistic about the Terps 2025 class. There's a lot of different players, four-star types of talent like Zahir Mathis on the edge, Jalen Gilchrist on the offensive line, Messiah Delhomme at safety. Zymer Smith is a top 10 rated player on EA College Sports, which is a topic for another day. That is a little bit crazy. I don't know why Zymer Smith is ranked so highly on EA College Sports game. I know he's a 4-star rated recruit, but you wouldn't think he's a top 10 rated guy. That's when I start to like kind of look at EA and I'm like, I don't really know. And I'm not trying to hate on Zymer, but a top 10 rated player in the freshman class, he's not a top 10 rated player in all the rankings or top 50 or top 100. Like, people don't have him that high. He is a 4-star, so I get him being pretty highly rated, but that's a topic for another day. And then on receiver, you have a guy like Justin Devon coming in. Running back, you have Iverson Howard. corner, you have Jaden Ships, which is exciting. Off the edge, you have Sydney Stewart, who's supposed to be a really interesting that we're going to talk about later. But there's a lot of different freshmen that are exciting. I get excited to watch young players. I get excited to watch freshmen. I get excited to watch guys that haven't been in the program and new types of players. I just think it brings a new taste that a lot of people enjoy watching, that a lot of people get excited for. And Maryland has that on their team. They have players that they're excited. They have freshmen that they're exciting about. They have transfers that they're exciting about. But I think maybe the biggest reason for I know I just said the 2025 class, but this is part of the 2025 class to be optimistic about next year is Malik Washington. Malik Washington is number one reason with that. That goes hand in hand with that 2025 class, which I was just saying, to be optimistic about next year. You have a freshman quarterback that has a chance, I think, and I don't think this is overstating things, to not only be the best quarterback Mike Locksley has had, but to be one of the best quarterbacks Maryland has had, period. I think he has a chance to be one of the best quarterbacks that Maryland has had, period. If it ends up working out the way we think he is, if he ends up playing to the degree that we think he is, if he's the talent that we think he is, Malik Washington has a chance to be one of the best Maryland quarterbacks ever. And I truly do believe that. And I truly believe that that's something that could actually become true for Malik Washington and the Terps. So I think he in the 2025 class is number one reason to be optimistic and to be excited about this season. And it's not just all about, Maryland on paper doesn't have the best roster. Maryland on there doesn't have this or that. It's exciting because we have a top 5 rated quarterback in the 2025 class, a high 4-star type of player that has a chance to transform the program and get it back to where it needs to be. I also think it's really exciting this year for Maryland football because I think that Mike Locksley this year has a lot of pressure on him after the bad year, but I think it's an exciting kind of way to look at it because it's like Mike Locksley almost has to perform. I don't think Mike Locksley can have another year like he did last year, and I don't know if he'll make it through. And having pressure on your head coach like that, as a fan, to me, that's something to look at. That's something to be interested in. That's something to be watching for. That's something to be excited about, is to see Mike Locksley have some pressure on him to get back to where he was the previous 3 seasons, and that's where we want to be. So I think that is something else that to be excited about. And I think something else that I'm really maybe number one thing in terms of this coming year that you just won't have a chance at doing in the coming years, probably, you never know, I guess. I don't know exactly how they do the schedule thing. Maryland's schedule, super favorable. Super favorable. That's maybe the number one reason, just based off of next year, to be optimistic about this team. This team has a chance to not be the greatest team on paper, not to be the most talented team in the Big Ten, maybe not even a middle-of-the-pack team in terms of talent, in terms of paper. We could be, but I don't really know yet. It's hard to kind of grasp a lot of new guys in a lot of new places. But if Maryland football and Mike Locksley are just well coached, can get good quarterback play. If you get good quarterback play and you're well coached, I think it's going to be similar to an NFL type of thing where you're going to have a chance to win a lot of games. Whereas if you're playing Ohio State and you're also playing Penn State and you're also playing Oregon, or if all those 3 teams are on your schedule, you might say to yourself, they can be well coached. They can have good quarterback play. They still ain't going to win the game. But this year, I think if we're well coached and we have good quarterback play, which I'm expecting it to be from Malik Washington, and other players step up, we don't have to be perfect. We're going to have the opportunity to make a bowl game. And as a Terp fan, as a person that talks about this team every single day, I think that's all really the fans want right now. After the year that we had last year with the reconstruction in the roster with some of the youth, I think we'll have a chance, or I think really all we want to do is make a bowl game. That's kind of how I see it. That's how I think the Terps want to do it. I think that's how the Terps that's the goal for next year in terms of, obviously, they're going to tell you they want to win the Big Ten, but realistic goal, we want to make a bowl game. And you don't always get to say that. Last year, I don't know if I could say that. If Maryland was well coached and had good quarterback play, I don't know if we make that bowl game with some of the challenges on the offensive line and some of those other challenges. And if we just pay attention to detail, we don't even have to have excellent quarterback play or be really well coached. If we just pay attention to details, we're going to have an opportunity to win Big Ten games. We are. We just don't have that hard of a schedule. You play a lot of solid Big Ten teams, but no one that's going to kill you, nobody that you have to particularly really worry about for the Terps. So if you play solid, if you get decent quarterback play, you're going to have every opportunity to make a bowl game. You're telling me you can't beat Washington at home? You're telling me you can't beat Billy Edwards in Wisconsin? You can't figure out a way to beat Nebraska at home, UCLA on the road, or Indiana, Rutgers? You can't beat those teams, Illinois, Michigan State? If you just have, if Mike Locksley is decently coaches the team at a decent level, Malik Washington plays at a pretty high level, we're going to have a chance to win games. We are. Because the other teams we are playing, we ain't playing Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate or Dan Lanning in Oregon or Drew Aller in Penn State with legit NFL dudes everywhere. We're playing teams that I don't want to say are in the same boat exactly, but aren't just going to out-talent us. They're not just going to come out there and just blow us away with talent. They might be a little bit more talented. They might have a little bit of a better roster, but it's going to come down to the margins more. And if Maryland's just a detailed-oriented team, you don't have to be like some insane. We don't have to put out 10 NFL guys next year and be like, that's the reason we won games. Like, no, if you just win in the margins and do the small things well, which I honestly think in sports isn't much of a thing. Like, I think college football is very much about talent, and that's about when you're trying to win a national championship. But when you're just trying to make a bowl game with Maryland's schedule, that's exciting. You can win in the margins. You can do the small things right. And usually this isn't true. You're going to have the opportunity to win a lot of Big Ten games. You will. If you do the small things right, if you make sure the guys on your team are winning the margins and Mike Locksley's cooking up just solid game plans. Nothing has to be amazing. You can make mistakes too. Then you're going to have opportunities to win game. Like when you play Ohio State, you can't make a mistake. Like Billy Edwards throws a pick against Oregon, like we won't win the game. Or if Nolan Wright fumbles the ball against Penn State, we ain't winning the game. And the only team that I can see on the schedule that's clearly like really elite, or I wouldn't even say they're like really elite, is Michigan. Some people might say, oh, Trey, like Indiana is really Indiana. Like, yeah, they're good, but I don't think that's a team that's impossible for us to beat. You know what I mean? So I do think there's a lot of different there's even more reasons. I think there's reasons to be optimistic about next year. You got a freshman quarterback, 4-star borderline, maybe some people would say a 5-star rated type of guy. You have also a really solid team in terms of you have a lot of solid players that haven't gotten a chance to do things, and I think that's exciting and reason to be optimistic, as well as a really favorable schedule. I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about the Terps next year. Let's talk about the pass rush for the Terps. Who gets it done? Who are the guys we need to be looking out for? I'll talk about that next. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with your stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of the endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal? Gametime Zone Deals picks the best seats for your section. Ever wonder what your view will actually look like before you buy? The app shows you the seat view, so there's no surprises. With Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees, no anything else. Worried about what happens in the plans? You can do that. Make sure the Gametime guarantee has your back with cancellation protections and more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Maryland's pass rush is going to be pivotal for the Terps next year. I talked about there's reason to be optimistic about next year for Maryland football. And I think the pass rush is one of those things that can be better next year as we wait for in 2 years when we get Zion Ely on campus and we have the chance to mess around with him and see what he can do. Obviously, we expect him to be an awesome type of player. He's a 5-star rated recruit. But this year, I think Maryland's pass rush is going to be so important. And I think the young guys really could lead a lot of it. I think that Maryland's pass rush hasn't been that good over the past couple of years. I just don't think it has. And when you really look at it, what pass rushers get drafted for Maryland football? We've had guys at our secondary, a lot of secondary players get drafted, a lot of receivers. We've had some offense. We've even had some offensive linemen get drafted, which I don't think has been a great position group for us. We've had players get drafted. I don't know the last pass rusher guy that could give us 4, 5, 6, 7 sacks that has gotten drafted for Maryland football that was really an impact player. And in the Big Ten, if you're not going to have guys off the edge, if you're not going to have guys that can get to the quarterback, it's just going to be really tough to win games. It just is. It's going to be really tough to win games if you don't have rushers, if you don't have guys that can get to the quarterback. But I do think that Maryland has some young players that I'm really looking forward to, and also some older guys that I think can really complete this pass rush in terms of being better than where it is. I'm not expecting us to be elite in the Big Ten, but I just think it can be better. I think it's young, but I think it can be better. I think there's a couple different guys that are really interesting. Neo Avery, really interesting. Has had a healthy season. I've always said he's really talented. I've kind of predicted him to break out way too much, where now I kind of just have to wait and see if it can actually happen. But I think Neo Avery can be really good. He has the size. He has everything to be really good. He's a rotational guy that I think can be good in the pass rush. Obviously, Daniel Wingate from the linebacker isn't just going to rush the passer, but he's been one of our leading sack guys last year. Same thing with Trey Reddick, a linebacker that's going to rush the passer, also going to play some coverage. He's also a guy that I'm expecting to get some pass rush. And then you get into some of the younger guys where I think it gets interesting. Who plays a lot? Who are the guys that make a big impact? So if you guys remember, there's been a lot of talk about freshman Sydney Stewart. That he apparently looks like he's going to be really good. To keep things short, to keep things simple, he looks like he's going to be really good and it's going to play a lot early, and it's impressed a lot of people, which I think is really exciting. If Sydney Stewart looks really good, then that's going to be really good for the Terps. And also 4-star rated Zahir Mathis, another guy coming off the edge with a really large frame with all those types of traits. Another guy that could end up being really solid for the Terps. Another guy that I'm going to be looking at to make an impact for Maryland football. And then you move on to the transfers like D.D. Holmes, who's a redshirt freshman. D.D. Holmes is really highly recruited out of high school. Went to Florida State last year, redshirted. Obviously, they weren't very good last year. He got out of there, which I think is smart. He's another guy that I think could be a guy that gets to the quarterback. I think there's a lot of different players here that have the potential to be the rusher. It's just who comes in and actually ends up doing it. DJ Samuels as well. So I do think that Maryland's pass rush could be better. I think it's young with guys like Sydney Stewart, Zahir Mathis, D.D. Holmes. Like, those guys are young, but it's exciting. It's like, that's back to our other point where I think there's reason to be optimistic. And this year, it should be easier to get pass rush. We're not playing the left tackle that's going to be drafted in the first round at Ohio State or Penn State or something like that. You're playing guys that should reasonably match up with us in terms of talent. Like, I know traditionally there's some schools that we play that have really good offensive line. Like, instantly comes to mind Wisconsin. Like, they always, I feel like, have good run game, good offensive line, get guys drafted. But all in all, Maryland's pass rush should look better next year. It should. We should be able to get to the quarterback at a solid amount. We should be able to do different things in the pass rush that we just haven't really shown a lot of so far. So I do think Maryland's pass rush should be a little bit better. We'll see exactly how it goes, but I do think that's something that could be better. I think we have the youth. I think we have some experience. I'm not going to say it's an elite group in the Big Ten, but I do think it's a high upside group that a lot of people are going to be looking at. Top 5 players on offense. Jeff Erman had a really interesting top 5 players on defense. Let's talk about his top 5 players on offense. We'll talk about that next. So if you guys remember, last time we were looking at the top 5 players on offense that Jeff Erman came out with his list for Maryland next season, and now he releases top 5 players on offense. So I thought the defensive side was really interesting because that's when I was like, oh, wait, this Sidney Stewart guy might be legit. And there's some other guys. But this is kind of who he has. He said, just missed the list were Terrell Perry, who I think is going to be really good for us, Isaiah Wright, who I hope can come back from injury, and Deshaun Williams, the running back, which is interesting. At number 5, he is Octavian Smith. I think that's totally fair. I think Octavian Smith is poised for a big year. Another reason to be excited, another reason to be optimistic is because of Octavian Smith. I think Octavian Smith is a really good player. I think he can do some really good things, but I think he has a lot of potential. Erman said Smith hasn't posted big numbers, but his quick, slippery slot receiver with a return game potential. So, yeah, I think that Octavian Smith ton of potential. He was in my top 5 when I did my top 5 players on offense. At number 4, he had Jaleel Farouk. So I always kind of wonder how people are going to rank those two guys, like Octavian, Jaleel, but I think those are our 2 guys. Those are our 2 new big-time receiving threats. Your Ty, your Caden. Go back for as long as you want. Maryland, it feels like, has some good receivers. Those are the 2 guys this year, Jaleel and Ty. He said Farouk's return home gives the offense potential game breaker. The former Oklahoma starter totaled over 1,200 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns before transferring. And while injuries derailed the 2024 season, he could be one of the most talented wideouts in the conference when healthy. So, yeah, I agree. Jaleel Farouk healthy. Jaleel Farouk can be really good, man. I'm expecting him to be really good for the Terps next year. I love Jaleel Farouk. I think he brings experience in that room. He also brings big play threat along with Octavian Smith, and hopefully a person that whoever's playing quarterback for us can do. So I do expect Jaleel Farouk to be a really good player. And the next player on this list, I think I have Malik Washington at my 3 spot as well. Maybe I have Adam 5. I don't remember. He's Malik Washington at 3. So there's a couple really interesting things before I read any of the quote that is really important about this. He's expecting Malik Washington to start. You can't put Malik Washington in your top 5 if you don't expect him to start. And I'm expecting him to start too. So I think having him at 3, your quarterback better be in your top 5 offensive players at the end of the season, or you didn't have a good year. It's just very unrealistic. But I think he's expecting Malik Washington to start, which I'm expecting as well. But I think Malik's talent is going to lead him to be one of our best guys. And he might be number 1 on this list. He said, Washington, the number 5 quarterback recruit in the country, is the most talented signal caller Maryland has had in years. And all signs point to him starting early. At 6'4", 220 pounds, Washington is a dual threat with the poise, athleticism, and arm talent to make a real impact as a freshman. So, yeah, I mean, you guys like kind of get my thing on Malik Washington. Like, he's going to be a high-end player. He's going to be really good. And he has Dorian Fleming at number 2, our high player on EA College Sports. So that I think Dorian Fleming coming from Georgia State, a lot of people are really high on. I think he's going to be a really good tight end. I think he's going to be Malik Washington's best friend. So I think Dorian Fleming at number 2 is really fair. And he has Nolan Ray at number 1. Nolan Ray this year could break out. Could go crazy. Could be like Roman Hemby's freshman year. Hopefully he doesn't have the regression of Roman Hemby, but it could end up being like Roman Hemby's freshman year, where Roman Hemby really bursted onto the scene, looked really good, did some really good things. So I can see Nolan Ray being number 1 at the end of the year. And the exciting thing about a lot of those guys is you get a lot of them back. That's what I mean. There's a lot of potential next year for the Terps. You just have to hold on and not let it blow up this year and keep guys and next year will be really exciting for Maryland football. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're every day talking Maryland football, basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.